Over the last several months, President Donald Trump has been disseminating fear in the validity of our elections. He's argued that because of mail-in ballots, our elections will be the most rigged in history, that they will be inaccurate and fraudulent, and that Democrats are knowingly creating havoc on election night. I spoke to Justin Levitt, a professor at Loyola Law School and renowned expert in elections and democracy, about whether these claims have any grounds at all.
Trump has claimed that this election will be the most fraudulent election in history. Is there any evidence to support that claim?
No. It's an easy answer to give. And actually, this is an answer that isn't just my answer. It's the answer of Republican and Democratic election officials and those who don't belong to either party. There is always reason for concern that there will be mistakes along the way or that there'll be difficulty that people have in casting ballots along the way. Certainly, the pandemic has done a great deal to disrupt sort of normal operations of a lot of things in American lives, elections included. But elections officials are working really, really hard to make sure that they can handle the disruption. And none of those changes to the way that we normally cast and count ballots really expose the system to any widespread fraud.
This is not the first time that Donald Trump has questioned the validity of our elections. Already in 2016, he argued that the elections were rigged against him. And even then, experts immediately responded, saying that rigging an election is basically impossible. So why does he continue to say this?
Why is President Trump sort of tweeting and seeking to cast doubt on the election? In part, we don't really know. It's a deep psychological issue with him. And I say this in part because he's tweeted unsupported and wildly inaccurate claims about fraud in an election that he legitimately won. So in 2016, he got more votes in the electoral college states that added up to an electoral college majority. Like it or not, those are the rules that we set up. He won that election on its own terms. And yet after the election, tweeted about 3 to 5 million undocumented individuals having cast fraudulent ballots, which was nonsense called out by both Democratic and Republican election officials and those belonging to neither party.
But many, including Governor Cuomo of New York, think that Trump's tweets are a calculated effort to reject the election results in the case that he loses.
No, I think this is a setup. I think they're going to lose the election. I think they're going to claim fraud, and they're going to go back to these states with the mail-in voting, and they're going to use that as an argument. And I just hope they don't do that.
So what happens if Trump refuses to leave office?
So either he will be elected or he will be defeated in the election, or worst case scenario, we have a question about who's been elected or who's been defeated. But we know that on January 20th at noon, the term of the current president is over. And if he's been reelected, then he continues in office starting at noon on the 20th. If President Biden is President Biden, then he'll take over on the 20th. And if there's still a question, if there's still for some reason, vanishingly small chance that there's a real question, the Speaker of the House becomes president on January 20th. But the one thing we know is that if President Trump has not been reelected, he doesn't just get to stay until we figure out what else happens. And if he is not affirmatively reelected, then the proper occupant of the office will, I'm sure, escort out anyone who happens to be trespassing at the moment.
In any case, Trump's warnings about mail-in ballots are shaping the way Americans see our elections. According to a recent Washington Post article, while 95% of people who say they're definitely voting for Trump are confident that their ballot cast in person on Election Day will be counted accurately, that goes down to 45% when asked how confident they are of the same outcome when voting by mail. But according to Levitt, believing that the only way you can lose is through election fraud has dangerous implications for our democracy.
It's really dangerous to believe that the only way you can lose an election is through fraud. That is, it's really dangerous to our democracy to believe that there is no way that a majority of people disagree with you, and that the only possible way that somebody else might have won is through cheating in the system. our system of government depends on at least the possibility that more people might disagree with us than agree with us. And that's a compact we have to make as a society. When Ben Franklin walked out of the Constitutional Convention, it was widely reported that somebody ran up to him and said, "So, Mr. Franklin, what have we got? We have a monarchy? Do we have another system of government? Do we have a pure democracy?" And he said, "We have a republic if we can keep it." Specifically, he said, "If you can keep it." Talking to the American people, it's on us to make sure that we actually facilitate a smooth either continuation of power or transition of power.
Look out for an upcoming video where Professor Levitt and I discuss how the nation as a whole, and Los Angeles in particular, are preparing for a pandemic election. The full interview is available on the LA Loyalans website as a podcast. Veronica BP, Election 2020, Los Angeles.